I never understood the true capacity of words to inflict pain. Not until that Sunday. The day started with the scent of fresh coffee and the rustle of the Boston Gazette from my study in Brookline Heights. I'm Elias Archer. I'm 68 years old, and what happened next carved a line straight through my life, dividing it into before and after. The peace was shattered by the front door slamming against the wall. I didn't even look up. That entrance was pure Penelope, my 42-year-old daughter. A force of nature, usually one that needed something. "In the kitchen, Penny," I called out, turning a page. Silence. Then, not the sound of the refrigerator opening, but the distinct metallic jangle of keys being lifted from the entryway bowl. My keys. The keys to the silver Bentley Continental I'd bought myself 3 weeks prior. I set my coffee down and walked into the hall. "Penelope, what are you doing with those?" She turned, and the look on her face wasn't urgency. It was something harder. "I'm taking the car," she said, not asking. "I have to be somewhere." "Absolutely not." I kept my voice level. "You can take my old sedan. The Bentley's insurance doesn't activate until Monday." The agent was explicit. "If anything happens, I'm not covered." "It's just for a few hours, Dad." She was already moving toward the door, jingling the keys with an air of absolute entitlement. I stepped in front of her, putting my hand out. "I said no, Penelope. The answer is no. Give me the keys. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you." Her face, the face of the little girl I'd taught to ride a bike, twisted into something I didn't recognize. It was a mask of pure, unadulterated contempt. "You've got to be kidding me. I'm late. Move." "I am not moving, and you are not taking that car. It's not insured. It's not safe. That is the end of the discussion." She laughed, a short, barking sound that chilled me. "Safe? You're worried about safe?" She shoved the keys into her pocket and looked me up and down, as if seeing me for the first time, as if I were a piece of furniture in her way. "You know what, Dad?" She spat, her voice dripping with a venom I never knew she possessed. "You're not even fit to drive anymore, you useless old man." The words hung in the air, sucking all the oxygen from the room. Useless. Old. Man. I was paralyzed. My hand, still outstretched, just hung there. She didn't just say it, she meant it. She had been holding that poison inside her, and it had finally come out. She shouldered past me, a sharp, deliberate shove. "Don't wait up!" she yelled over her shoulder. The front door slammed with enough force to rattle the pictures on the wall. I was left standing in the echo, the smell of her expensive perfume mixing with the sudden bitter taste of bile in my throat. I walked slowly to my leather armchair. I didn't sit. I just stood behind it, gripping the back until my knuckles turned white. Useless. I, who had worked 60-hour weeks for 40 years at a firm that demanded everything. I, who had skipped promotions to avoid relocations that would pull her out of her private school. I, who had paid every cent of her university tuition, her wedding, the down payment on her first apartment. All of it. Every sacrifice, every missed vacation, every late night checking her homework. All of it had just been erased. It had all added up to useless old man. The initial shock, the feeling of being slapped, began to recede. It was replaced by something else. Something cold, heavy, and clear. This wasn't a tantrum. This wasn't a daughter having a bad day. This was a verdict. This was what she truly thought of me. I was a resource that had run dry. An open wallet that she now found inconvenient. I looked at the clock. 10:15 a.m. I finally sat down, but not in defeat. I sat down as a man who had just been handed a new set of facts. My daughter, the person I had built my life around, didn't respect me. She didn't even like me. She saw me as an obstacle. In that moment, the love I felt, that vast, unconditional ocean of a father's love, didn't vanish. But a seawall slammed down right in the middle of it. The part of me that gave, that forgave, that enabled, it was walled off. What was left was something else. Something I hadn't felt in decades. Resolve. I stood up. I went to my desk. I pulled out a fresh legal pad and a pen. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to plead. I was going to act. This was the end of the line. 2 days. 48 hours of silence. I didn't call her. She didn't call me. I spent the time making a few preliminary inquiries, firming up my new reality. On Tuesday morning, I was in my office paying bills when I heard the low, throaty rumble of the Bentley's engine. I walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. The silver car slid into the driveway. Penelope got out. She didn't even look at the house. She was on her phone, laughing at something. She closed the door, walked to the end of the driveway, and kept going down the sidewalk without a backward glance. Her body language wasn't apologetic. It wasn't even defiant. It was furtive, dismissive, like someone dropping off a rental they didn't care about. I waited a full 5 minutes after she turned the corner. I would not give her the satisfaction of a confrontation. Then I put on my jacket and went outside. The bright morning sun was cruel. It illuminated exactly what she had done. It started at the driver's side door, a long, deep, jagged scratch, not from a sideswipe. This was deliberate. Someone had taken a key, or a rock, and dragged it from the front wheel well, across the door, across the rear passenger panel, all the way to the taillight. My stomach clenched. I walked around the car. The paint, which I had waxed myself just a week before, was marred, scuffed. I pulled my phone out and took a picture. I used the spare key from my pocket to unlock the driver's door. The smell hit me before I even opened it. A nauseating wave of stale cigarette smoke, spilled liquor, and cheap, sweet perfume. I pulled the door open. The pristine beige leather interior was destroyed. Dark, sticky stains covered the passenger seat. Cigarette burns, small and black, pockmarked the leather. The floor mats were covered in mud, ash, and what looked like glitter? It was a violation, a desecration. My hand was shaking as I opened the glove compartment. 2 empty bottles of Stolichnaya vodka fell out and clattered onto the floor mat. Along with them, a small, clear plastic baggie with white powder residue, several used, foil-wrapped condom wrappers, and a small, folded piece of paper. I picked up the paper. It was a parking ticket, time-stamped at 3 a.m. on Monday morning. The location wasn't just some bar. It was the Gilded Cage, a notoriously shady, high-end nightclub known for backroom gambling and catering to the city's worst elements. The kind of place her husband, Miles, with his minor gambling problem, would be drawn to. My blood didn't just boil. It turned to ice. This wasn't a joyride. This wasn't an important place she had to be. She had taken my brand-new, uninsured car, lied to my face, and used it as a party wagon for her and her deadbeat husband. I went back inside. I grabbed my high-resolution digital camera. Methodically, I documented everything. The key scratches, the serial numbers on the vodka bottles, the powder in the baggie, the stains, the cigarette burns, the parking ticket with its damning address and time. I took 47 pictures. Each one was a nail in the coffin of the man I used to be. The father who gave second chances. I called Simon Croft. He's been my mechanic for 20 years. He's a man of few words, all of them honest. Simon, it's Elias Archer. I need you to come to my house now. What's wrong, Elias? The Bentley giving you trouble already? Just come, Simon, please. He was there in 30 minutes. He walked up to the car, coffee in hand, and stopped dead. He didn't speak for a full minute. He just walked around it, his expression hardening. He opened the door and recoiled from the smell. My God, Elias, what happened? My daughter, I said. The two words felt like gravel in my mouth. Simon put his coffee on the driveway and got on his knees to inspect the key scratch. He ran a gentle finger over it. But this is through the clear coat, through the paint, right down to the primer. This is malicious, Elias. This isn't an accident. He spent 20 minutes looking over the interior, his face grim. He finally stood up, wiping his hands on a rag. To fix the paint, you're looking at a full panel respray. That's $2,000, maybe $3,000 alone. The interior, those seats need to be professionally reupholstered, not just cleaned. The burns went right through. The detailing to get that smell out. If we ever can. He shook his head. You're looking at $3,500, minimum. And that's me giving you the friend price. I need a formal estimate, Simon. Itemized, on your business letterhead. I need it today. You're not filing insurance? It wasn't insured, I said. His eyes met mine. He saw the coldness there. I'll have it for you in an hour. He drove off. I went inside. I printed every photograph in high-gloss color. When Simon returned with the estimate, I placed it, the photos, the baggie, and the parking ticket into a large manila envelope. I locked it in my home safe. The phone rang at 5:05 p.m. I looked at the caller ID. Penelope, I let it ring 4 times. Then I picked up. Hello. Hey, Dad. Her voice was breezy, light, as if nothing had happened. Listen, I'm so sorry about keeping the car so long. Things just got crazy. You know how it is. I waited. The silence stretched. Dad, you there? I'm here. So, we're cool, right? I got it back to you. No harm, no foul? No harm, no foul. The phrase echoed in my head. The $3,500 estimate. The vodka bottles. The key scratches. The insult. We have nothing to talk about right now, Penelope, I said, my voice as flat and cold as a sheet of steel. Oh, come on, Dad. Don't be like that. It was just a car. You can afford it. Click. I hung up the phone. I sat there, staring at the receiver. You can afford it. She didn't just disrespect me. She didn't just damage my property. She saw it as her right to do so. I spent the next 2 days in a blur of cold fury. I met with my lawyer. I met with my financial advisor. I set a new plan in motion. I was methodical. I was precise. I was a man dismantling a life I had built. On Thursday, I left the house for an hour to go to the bank. I needed certified copies of several documents. When I returned, I knew something was wrong before I even got to the door. It was unlocked. I always lock it. I pushed the door open. Hello? The entryway was fine. The living room was fine. I walked toward my study. It was ransacked, but it was a specific, targeted mess. My laptop was still on the desk. The flat-screen TV on the wall was untouched. They hadn't gone for the obvious valuables. They had gone for my desk. The drawers were pulled out. Papers were everywhere. And my home safe, hidden behind a false panel. It was torn open. The door had been pried off with a crowbar. It was empty. I sank into my desk chair, the wind knocked out of me. The envelope, the photographs, the mechanic's estimate, the baggie with the drug residue, the parking ticket from the gilded cage. All of it. Gone. My mind raced. This wasn't a random burglary. A random thief would have taken the laptop, the TV, my watch collection in the bedroom. This was a cleanup operation. I picked up my phone to call the police, but my hand stopped. What would I tell them? Someone broke in and stole evidence of my daughter's depravity? A new, chilling realization settled over me. Penelope must have done this, or more likely, had Miles do it. She hadn't just insulted me. She hadn't just destroyed my property. She was a criminal. She had orchestrated a break-in, my own daughter, to cover her tracks. The last flicker of hesitation, of fatherly softness, died. She hadn't just crossed a line. She had burned the whole bridge. The break-in changed everything. This was no longer a family dispute. This was a betrayal. It was an act of war. The loss of the evidence was infuriating, but it was also clarifying. She thought she was smart. She thought she had erased the problem. She had no idea what she had just unleashed. I picked up my phone. I didn't call the police. I called Rebecca Valentine at Century Real Estate. She had handled all my properties for 15 years. Rebecca, Elias Archer. Elias, what a pleasure. How's retirement? It's busy, I said, my voice flat. Listen, I need you to do something for me. I'm selling the condo on Newbury Avenue. There was a stunned silence. Rebecca knew that condo. I'd bought it for Penelope 5 years ago. It was her home. It was also, crucially, 100% in my name. Elias? Is everything all right? Everything is crystal clear, Rebecca. I want you to list Unit 3B, and I don't want to test the market. I want you to price it for a quick sale. I want it sold yesterday. A quick sale, like an investor price? A cash buyer price? An as-is price? I want it gone. Today. How fast can you move? Rebecca, ever the professional, sensed the iron in my voice. Her tone shifted. With a cash buyer, we could close in weeks. But listing it today, are you sure? I have never been more sure of anything in my life. Get me the listing agreement. I'll sign it electronically in the next 10 minutes. Okay, Elias. I'll draw it up. One more thing. The occupants. What do I tell them about showings? You tell them nothing, I said. The lease agreement they never signed, the one I let them live without, gives me full access with 24 hours notice. You give them the bare minimum notice. No more. Understood, Elias. I'll get it done. I hung up. The first domino was pushed. I wasn't done. I pulled up my credit card statements. I found the charge from 3 months ago. Legacy travel, $9,500. The grand family vacation to California I had booked for all of us over Christmas. Penelope, Miles, and my granddaughter Iris. I dialed the number. Legacy travel, this is Clarissa. How can I help you? Hello, Clarissa. My name is Elias Archer. I have a reservation, reference number PS 2047, a family trip to California for December. Ah, yes, Mr. Archer. A wonderful package. Are you calling to add an excursion? I'm calling to cancel the entire reservation. Immediately. Cancel? Her cheerful voice faltered. But Mr. Archer, it's all paid for. According to our policy, a cancellation at this stage. I cut her off. My patience was gone. I don't care about the penalties, Clarissa. I don't care if I get a single dollar back. I want the reservation, The plane tickets, the hotel rooms, and the rental cars all canceled. Right now. Can you do that? Or do I need to speak to your manager? Yes, sir. I can process that. The penalty will be quite significant. Nearly 80%. Fine. Consider it an expensive lesson. Send me the cancellation confirmation. I hung up the phone. I felt a strange, cold calm. I had just set fire to 9,500 and I felt nothing but relief. I was cutting the cords. Every financial tie that bound me to her. Every expectation of support. I was erasing it all. The next 5 weeks were the quietest of my life. I signed the listing agreement for the condo. Rebecca Valentine was a shark. She had it on the private market within an hour. Penelope's calls and texts started 2 days later. First, confusion. Dad, why did I get an email about a trip cancellation? Is your card okay? I ignored it. A week later, annoyance. Dad, Rebecca Valentine just let herself into my home with a bunch of strangers. What the hell is going on? Call me. I ignored it. I read the text, and then I deleted it. The calls became more frequent, more frantic. Dad, this isn't funny. People are walking through my home. Iris is freaked out. What are you doing? I let every call go to voicemail. I listened to none of them. During that time, I reflected. I remembered overhearing her on the phone with a friend a year ago, when she thought I was out of earshot. He's such a drag, honestly, she'd said, laughing. But as long as he's paying the bills, you just have to put up with him. I'd told myself she was joking. I'd told myself she was just venting. I'd been a fool. I'd been funding the lifestyle of a woman who despised me. Her husband, Miles, with his shadowy consulting job and his clear gambling addiction, had only made it worse. The break-in was the final proof. They weren't just users. They were destructive. They were dangerous. It was April 15th, a rainy, miserable Tuesday. I was reading when my phone rang. Rebecca Valentine, I picked up. Elias, I've got him. Tell me. A surgeon and his wife, relocating from New York. They saw it this morning. They're paying all cash. They've offered $450,000. That's $25,000 under our ask, but $450,000 is fine. Send me the offer. I'll sign it. Wait, Elias, she said, her voice tight with excitement. There's a condition. His new job at Mass General starts on Thursday. He needs to close and take possession this afternoon. I paused. This was fast. Faster than I'd even hoped. He has his lawyer and the full cash amount ready to wire to escrow right now. They'll sign all papers digitally. They want the keys by 6 p.m. I looked out the window at the rain. I imagined Penelope in that warm, dry condo. The condo I paid for. The condo she felt so entitled to that she would rob me to protect it. Done, I said. Accept the offer. Tell them they'll have the keys at 6. Elias. The occupants. Penelope. She's your daughter. She has a child. Giving her, 4 hours notice? That's my business, Rebecca. Are you my agent or her advocate? There was a sharp intake of breath. I'm your agent. I'll call their realtor and accept. The documents will be in your inbox in 20 minutes. I'll arrange for a moving crew to be on standby. A moving crew? To move her things out, Elias. Into the street. If she's not out by 6, the new owners can have her legally removed as a trespasser. This is how a forced eviction works. Good, I said. Proceed. I went to my closet. I put on my best charcoal wool suit, a white shirt, a dark blue tie. the suit I wore to close multi-million-dollar deals, my suit of armor. I would not be there. I would not give her the satisfaction of screaming at me. I would not let her tears manipulate me. She would face this alone. At 2:00 p.m. sharp, my phone, which had been quiet for a week, exploded. A call from Penelope. I hit ignore. Another call. Ignore. A text. What is happening? Another text. Dad, a moving crew, is at my door with a realtor. They say the condo is sold. Call me. A third text. This is insane. They are coming in. Call me right now, Dad. My phone buzzed again. A text from Rebecca. 2:05 p.m. Team has arrived. Occupants are in shock. They are refusing to cooperate. My phone rang. Penelope. Ignore. Penelope again. Ignore. Another text from Rebecca. 2:30 p.m. Mrs. Archer is hysterical. She is demanding to speak with you. I told her the sale is final, and she has until 6:00 p.m. to vacate. I poured myself a short glass of bourbon. I sat in my armchair. I watched the rain. Text from Rebecca. 3:02 p.m. Packing is underway. The crew is moving items to the sidewalk as per the eviction order. Situation is tense. I remembered her words. Useless old man. I remembered the sight of my trashed Bentley. I remembered my ransacked office. My hand did not tremble as I sipped my drink. My phone had not stopped ringing. 25 missed calls. At 4:15 p.m., I decided it was time. She had been in a state of panic for over 2 hours. The shock would have worn off. The terror would be setting in. I answered. It wasn't a voice, it was a shriek. A raw animal sound of pure panic. Dad! What is happening? What did you do? I held the phone an inch from my ear. I let her scream. They're putting my furniture on the street, in the rain. Dad, please! You have to stop this! It's a mistake! I waited until she had to take a ragged, sobbing breath. It is not your house, Penelope, I said. My voice was quiet, calm. The contrast to her hysteria made her stop. What? It was never your house. It was my condo, bought with my money, held in my name. A privilege I gave you. But Iris, our home, you can't. I can, I said, my voice as cold as the grave. And I have. After you called me a useless old man. After you took my new car and returned it destroyed. After you broke into my home and robbed me to cover your tracks. I decided it wasn't yours any longer. There was a sharp, strangled gasp. I heard her whisper, broke into. You have until 6:00 p.m. The new owners will be there at 6:01. I suggest you call a storage company. I hung up the phone. I stood up, went to my desk, and shut the phone off completely. I would not be swayed. The die was cast. At 7:30 p.m., I turned my phone back on. The eviction was complete. The sale was final. The money was in my account. I called a cab. Newbury Avenue, I told the driver. I had to see it. I had to face her. This was the final part of the lesson. When the cab turned the corner, the scene was worse than I could have imagined. Under the sickly yellow streetlights, in the still drizzling rain, was a mountain of their lives. A sofa, sodden and dark. Boxes, some already collapsing from the damp. A mattress, leaning against a tree. Clothes. Toys. It was a monument to her arrogance. My granddaughter, Iris, was sitting on a sealed plastic tub, headphones on, her face pale and bewildered. Miles, her husband, was pacing, screaming into his phone at what was probably a storage company that was closed. And Penelope? She was sitting on the curb, her head in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Her expensive clothes were soaked. She looked up as I got out of the cab. Her eyes, red-rimmed and swollen, widened. She scrambled to her feet and ran at me. Dad! Dad, thank God! You're here! You have to fix this! Tell them to go! You can undo it, right? Tell them! She grabbed the front of my suit jacket, her hands desperate. I gently but firmly removed her hands from my jacket. I stood back, putting a foot of space between us. I am not here to fix it, Penelope. My voice, calm and steady, cut through her hysteria. When I am here to make sure you understand, once and for all, why this happened. Why? Over a stupid argument? She sobbed. You're throwing us on the street over a car? A car? I repeated. The word felt small. You call it a stupid argument when you screamed at me that I wasn't even fit to drive. When you called me a useless old man. She flinched, as if I'd slapped her. You call it a car when you returned it destroyed? When you and your husband used it for a drug-fueled party? When you cost me thousands in damages? I can pay you back. Pay me back? I laughed. It was a cold, empty sound. And what about the break-in, Penelope? What about my safe? What about my evidence? Did you think I was stupid? Did you think I wouldn't notice? Her face went bone white. She started to shake her head, her eyes wide with a different kind of terror. I didn't know they would. You didn't know. I turned my gaze on Miles, who had frozen. You! Your gambling debts, your low-life friends. You let them into this. You let them rob my house. Dad, please, Penelope begged, her voice cracking. Please, we have nowhere to go. Iris, look at Iris. Please, don't do this to us. I am not doing this to you, I said, my voice dropping to a low, intense command. You did this. Your arrogance, your disrespect, your criminal behavior. This is the consequence. What do I have to do? She whispered, all the fight gone. Tell me, I'll do anything. I looked at the mountain of wet furniture. I looked at my granddaughter who was now watching us, her eyes full of fear. You're going to stand on your own 2 feet. You're going to get a job. Your husband is going to get a real job. You're going to find your own place to live. You're going to learn what respect is. You're going to learn what work is. I turned and walked back to the cab. Dad, where are you going? Don't leave us here. I stopped, but I didn't turn around. You are not my responsibility anymore, Penelope. You're an adult. Start acting like one. I got in the cab and closed the door. As we drove away, I saw her collapse onto the wet pavement, a long, mournful wail swallowed by the city noise. I was home for less than an hour. The bourbon in my glass was untouched. I was staring into the fireplace when my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. It was Miles, alone. He looked terrified. He was soaked to the bone, shaking, and his eyes were wide. I opened the door. Mr. Archer, he stammered, his hands twisting together. Please, 5 minutes. Please, you have to know. I have nothing to say to you. I started to close the door. They'll kill me, he yelled, and the desperation in his voice made me pause. I'm a dead man. I don't care about that anymore. But I can't let you think, Penny. I opened the door wider. Get in. You have 3 minutes. He practically fell into the entryway. Mr. Archer, I'm a gambler. A bad one. I owe people, bad people, from the gilded cage. This I knew. They knew who her father was. They knew you had money. They told me to get them leverage. I told them no. So they followed Penny. He was rambling, tears mixing with the rain on his face. They cornered her when she left your house that Sunday. They took the keys from her. They said they were just borrowing the car as a warning to me, to show they could get to my family. I stood there, motionless. She was terrified, Mr. Archer. She didn't know what to do. They're the ones who trashed the car. It was them, not her. They dropped it off and told her if she said a word, they'd hurt Iris. They'd hurt you. And the break-in, I said, my voice quiet. That was them too, he choked out. I let it slip that you had a parking ticket, that you had pictures. They came for it, to protect themselves. Penny didn't know. I swear to God she didn't know about that. She's been trying to protect me. She's been trying to protect you, all while being entitled and awful. I know. But she's not. She's not a thief. She's just trapped. I stared at him. This changed the narrative. It didn't excuse her words. It didn't excuse her entitlement. But it reframed the malice. Are you telling me the truth, Miles? I swear on Iris's life, I'm taking them to my sister's place tonight. Then, I don't know. I've ruined everything. I was silent for a long time. The story was plausible. It fit the pieces. The targeted theft. The specific malicious damage to the car. Your words mean nothing to me, I said finally. Your actions are what got you here. I know, he whispered. Go, get your wife, get your daughter, go to your sisters, and then you fix this. You don't tell me, you don't ask me, you show me, you get clean. You get a job. You help your wife fix the mess you both made. Now get out of my house. He looked at me, a strange mix of terror and relief. He nodded, turned, and ran back out into the night. I closed the door. I was still right, but I was also wrong. The situation was far more complicated and far more dangerous than I had known. Miles's sister lived in a cramped, 2-bedroom apartment. She let them stay for 1 week. Then they were out. The only place they could find on such short notice, with no deposit and no credit, was a single 130-square-foot room in a shared boarding house in Dedham. It was a nightmare. A communal bathroom at the end of the hall, shared with 4 other families. A hot plate for a kitchen. The constant smell of stale food and disinfectant. Penelope, the woman who complained if her condo's cleaning service missed a spot, was now living in a room with peeling wallpaper and a single buzzing fluorescent light. It took her 3 weeks to find a job. Her resume was a 5-year-old relic from a fashion boutique. She had no skills, no recent experience. Finally, she was hired as a cashier at Metro Foods. The salary was $800 a month, before taxes. Her first day was a lesson in humiliation. The polyester uniform chafed her skin. Her manager, Richard Foster, was a tough, no-nonsense man who didn't care about her pedigree. Her hands, once soft from weekly manicures, became cracked and dry from handling cold groceries and harsh cleaning sprays. Her feet, used to designer shoes, throbbed with a dull, constant ache after 8 hours on the concrete floor. Their weekly food budget was $60 for 3 people. Penelope, who used to spend that on a single lunch, was now at her own checkout, anxiously using a calculator to make sure she could afford milk, bread, and pasta. The hardest part was Iris. My granddaughter, 16 years old, was sleeping on an inflatable mattress that lost air every night. It was wedged between her parents' bed and the wall. Her friends from her private school, the ones whose parents I knew from galas, stopped calling. They couldn't understand why Iris couldn't go to the mall, why she couldn't go out for pizza. The shame was palpable. Iris, who had done nothing wrong, was paying the price for her parents' arrogance and her father's addiction. The tiny room became a pressure cooker. The arguments between Penelope and Miles were vicious, whispered, and toxic. "This is your fault," she would hiss at him after Iris was asleep. "Your friends, your problem." "My fault?" he'd shoot back. "I didn't call him a useless old man. I didn't treat him like an ATM for 10 years. You're the one who pushed him over the edge." They were both right, and it didn't matter. One Saturday, Iris came into the room, holding a paper hat. "I got a job," she announced, her voice flat. "At the coffee shop, weekends, I can help pay for food." Penelope broke down. She sat on the bed and wept, holding her daughter, rocking her back and forth, the ultimate symbol of her failure. Her child now had to work to feed them. Summer turned to fall. The grind set in. Penelope worked. She worked double shifts. She never called in sick. She never complained. She just scanned, bagged, and said, "Have a nice day." On weekends, she started cleaning houses. She, who had once had a cleaning service, was now scrubbing other people's toilets for $15 an hour. Her manager, Richard Foster, noticed. "You're a horse, Archer," he said one day, not unkindly. "You work harder than any of the kids I hire." "I need the money, Richard," she said, not looking up from stacking cans. "We all need the money. Not all of us are willing to bleed for it. I'm putting you in for the assistant manager training course. It's $1.50 more an hour. Don't screw it up." I knew all this. Not from her. She still called, but I kept the calls short. I knew it from Constance Wu, an elderly woman in her building who happened to be friends with my doorman. "That woman, your daughter," Constance told me one day. "She works from sunup to sundown. I see her leave in the dark and come home in the dark. And her husband, he goes to that church basement meeting every Tuesday and Thursday. Gamblers, I think." Miles had hit rock bottom. With no money to gamble and a family on the brink, he had finally started attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings. He found a steady job at an IT help desk. It wasn't glorious, but it was a paycheck. A real one. Penelope's weekly calls to me began to change. I'd started answering them, but I remained distant. I was an observer. In September, the calls were still tinged with self-pity. "Dad, I've been at this for 5 months. I'm working 2 jobs. Isn't this enough? Haven't you punished me enough?" "This isn't a punishment, Penelope," I'd reply, my voice even. "This is a consequence. It's enough when you're standing on your own. Are you?" Silence. "No." "Then it's not enough." In October, the tone changed. There was a new, strange note in her voice. Pride. "Dad, Richard promoted me. I'm the assistant manager for the night shift. I get a 50-cent raise." She said it as if she'd just been made CEO. "Good work, Penelope. How does it feel?" "It feels real," she said, confused by the concept. "I earned it. Me." In November, the call that signaled the real shift. She was quiet for a long time. "What is it, Penelope?" "A woman came through my line today. An old woman. Her groceries came to 45.28. She only had 30. She was trying to decide which food to put back. Her medication or meat." Penelope's voice was thick. "She looked so helpless, Dad. Ashamed. Like I must have made you feel that day. And every day I asked you for money." I waited. "I paid for it," Penelope whispered. "The whole 45.20, it was my food money for the rest of the week, but I couldn't not." I closed my eyes. "That's good, Penelope. That's very good." A week later, she called. Dad, I want, I want to invite you to dinner. I'm not interested in a restaurant, Penelope. No, she said quickly. Not a restaurant, here, in our, in our room. I want to cook for you. With money I earned. Miles and Iris will be there. I want you to see. This was different. This was not an appeal for help. This was a presentation of facts. What day? I asked. I didn't go to their room. Not yet. I called her back. Meet me for coffee first, near your work. Just you. I got to the humble diner 10 minutes early. I watched her walk in. I almost didn't recognize her. The 9 months of grinding poverty and hard labor had stripped her bare. She had lost 30 pounds. Her face was thin, and lines of fatigue were etched around her eyes. But her eyes themselves, they were clear. For the first time in her life, they were clear. Not veiled with entitlement or arrogance. Just clear. She wore her Metro Foods uniform pants and a simple wool coat that was clean, but old. Hi, Dad, she said. She didn't try to hug me. She just sat down. Hello, Penelope. You look different. I feel different, she said. She ordered a black coffee. Thank you for coming. I know this hasn't been easy for you either. That single sentence. The admission that my actions had cost me something. It was the first real sign. How are Iris and Miles? Iris is amazing. She's a different person, responsible. Her grades are up. She says, understanding what $1 is worth makes her want to study harder so she never has to struggle like this. And Miles? She took a deep breath. He's in recovery. He goes to his GA meetings 4 times a week. He works his job. He gives me his paycheck, and I give him an allowance for the bus. He hasn't gambled in 6 months. It's hard, but he's trying. He's really trying. And you? I asked. How are you, really? She looked at her raw, chapped hands, wrapped around the coffee mug. I'm exhausted, she said, with a small, sad smile. I'm tired all the time. My back always hurts. But I'm proud. In a way I've never been. When I got that promotion, when I saved enough to buy Iris a new coat for her birthday, when I paid for that old woman's groceries, those little wins, Dad, they mean more to me than the condo ever did, because they're mine. We sat in silence for a moment. Dad, she said, her voice dropping, I have to confess something. For years, especially after I married Miles, I started to see you as an obligation, as a bank. Someone I had to manage and put up with because you paid for my life. I know, I said. I heard you. Her head snapped up, her eyes wide with shame. You heard that? The phone call. Yes. She closed her eyes, and a single tear traced a path down her cheek. God, when I screamed at you, when I called you, that name, it wasn't just anger, Dad. It was the truth. It was what I had let myself believe. That you were useless to me if you weren't giving me what I wanted. She looked at me, her eyes brimming. And that shames me more than the tiny room, more than the uniform, more than anything. And now? Now, she said, her voice gaining a small, hard strength. Now I know I was the obligation. You had worked your whole life. You had earned your retirement. And instead of peace, you got a spoiled 42-year-old child who treated you like trash. You weren't the useless one, Dad. I was. The apology was pure. It was real. It was earned. I reached across the table and, for the first time in almost a year, I put my hand on hers. She flinched, then gripped my hand like a drowning woman. Are you ready, Penelope, to have a different relationship with me? A real one? One based on mutual respect, where I am your father, not your bank? Yes, she whispered, tears flowing freely now. Yes, Dad, more than anything, but I'll prove it. I know I have to prove it with actions, not just words. Exactly, I said, pulling my hand back, and that's going to take time. I'll do anything. What's next? 3 things, I said, all business again. 1, you maintain your financial independence. You and Miles, you pay your own way, completely. Done, she said, nodding. 2, if you are ever in a true emergency, any help I offer will be a loan with a written repayment plan. Not a gift, ever again. Understood, fair. And 3, I said, you're going to get professional help. Therapy, to understand why you felt so entitled. To unpack the dynamic we both built. I'll pay for the first 5 sessions. After that, it's on you. She nodded, her face set with determination. Yes. Okay. I'll do it. A month later, in mid-January, I invited her to lunch. A real lunch. At a modest place, but one with tablecloths. She was vibrant. She was in therapy. She was still working both jobs. She and Miles had a budget. They were saving. I have a new proposal, I said. She tensed, expecting a test. What is it? I want you to volunteer, on Saturdays. I'll pay you for your time, what you would have made cleaning houses. Volunteer? Where? It's an organization called the Parents' Dignity Project, the PDP. It's run by a man named Dr. Arthur Marlowe. I let the words land. It's an NGO, Penelope. It helps parents who have been emotionally, financially, and psychologically abused by their adult children. She looked like I had punched her in the stomach. Her face went pale. You want me to go there? I want you to go there, I said, my voice gentle. I want you to sit in a room and listen to other parents. I want you to hear their stories. And I want you to understand, truly, what I went through. And what you did. I don't know if I can, she whispered, her eyes full of shame. I think you can. I think you're strong enough now. I think you need to. Her first day at the PDP, she told me, was the hardest day of her life. Dr. Arthur Marlowe, a kind but firm man in his 60s, welcomed her. He didn't judge her. He just led her to a room with a circle of chairs. She sat and she listened. She listened to Diane Crane, a 68-year-old widow, describe how her son had emptied her bank account to pay drug debts, leaving her to face foreclosure. She listened to Martin Rios, a 70-year-old retiree, describe how his daughter had threatened to put him in a home and get power of attorney when he refused to co-sign a loan for her failing business. I sat there, Dad, she told me on the phone that night, her voice broken. I cried for 2 hours straight. I couldn't stop. They were telling my story, our story. That woman, Diane, the way her son spoke to her. It was me. It was my voice. I was just as cruel as them. Penelope didn't just go back. She threw herself into the work. At first, she just made coffee and organized files. But Dr. Marlowe saw something in her. Your daughter has a unique gift, Elias, he told me when I called to check in. She's not just guilty, she's reformed. She has lived both sides. She understands the perpetrator in a way my other counselors can't. He started letting her co-facilitate support groups, not for the parents, for the children, the adult children who were trying to make amends. She told me about one session. A man came in, she said, 40 years old, blamed his mother for all his failures. I told him my story. I told him about the Bentley. I told him about the condo. I told him about the 130-square-foot room and the smell of the communal bathroom. I told him what it felt like to work 80-hour weeks for minimum wage. What did he do? He just shut up. He listened. For the first time, he was hearing it from one of his own. After 2 months, Dr. Marlowe called her into his office. "Penelope," he said, "I want to offer you a paid part-time position, program coordinator. It's not much, $800 a month. But you're invaluable here. You are living proof that change is possible." 1 year, almost to the day. The changes were staggering. Penelope was now working her night shift at Metro Foods and her part-time day job at the PDP. She and Miles had put a deposit down on a small one-bedroom apartment. A real one. I had offered to help with the deposit. "No, Dad," she said. It was the proudest I'd ever heard her. "Thank you. But no. We saved for it. Miles and I. It's ours." She had declined my money. It was the greatest gift she could have given me. Iris was with me that day. We were planting spring bulbs in my garden. "Grandpa," she said, patting down the soil, "I was so angry at you, for so long. I thought you were the cruelest man in the world." "I know, sweetheart. But you gave Mom the best gift you could have. You let her find herself. We're a real family now, not the fake one we used to be." Miles, too. He was 10 months clean. He came to my house alone. He stood on my doorstep, hat in hand, and apologized, man to man. For his addiction, for his weakness, for the danger he had put us all in. I didn't forget. But I saw the work. I saw the change. I shook his hand. Our new tradition was Sunday lunch, but they hosted. They'd come to my house using my kitchen. Penelope and Miles would arrive with bags of groceries they had bought. With their money. They would cook for me. Simple meals. Pasta. Roasted chicken. "It's funny," Penelope said one Sunday, stirring a sauce. "When I lived in the condo, I had a kitchen that cost more than my car, and I never cooked. I hated it. Now in our tiny apartment, planning a meal, staying on budget, it feels like art. It feels like love." She was happy, exhausted, but happy, fulfilled. "I sleep at night, Dad," she told me. "For the first time in my adult life, I sleep peacefully. Not because I have money, but because I know, for the first time, I'm not a burden to anyone. I earned my day." At the end of February, she called me with a formal invitation. "Dad, I want to invite you to our home, our new, tiny, one-bedroom apartment. This Saturday, I want to celebrate." "Celebrate what?" "The first anniversary," she said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. "Of my graduation, as a responsible adult." I went. The apartment was small. The furniture was secondhand. But it was clean. It was warm. It was proud. Miles and Iris were there. They had cooked a simple stew. We sat around a small, wobbly card table. As I sat there, eating the best meal I'd had in a decade, I looked at them. I saw a strong, independent woman who had learned the value of respect by losing everything. I saw a man, flawed and scarred, but actively, bravely fighting for his family and his sobriety every single day. I saw a granddaughter who had been forged in the fire and had come out stronger, more compassionate, and more mature than any of her private school friends. I was no longer the useless old man. I was no longer the bank. I was just Dad and Grandpa. The old toxic relationship we'd had, it was dead. It had died on the pavement of Newberry Avenue among the rain-soaked furniture. This new relationship, The one built on hard boundaries, mutual respect, and earned love, was just beginning. I walked home that night. I didn't take a cab. I wanted to feel the cold air. I wasn't a victim. I wasn't a savior. I was just a father. A father who had finally found the courage to teach the hardest and most important lesson of all, the lesson of consequences. And in doing so, I hadn't lost a daughter. I had finally, truly gained one. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.